So bear with me here for a moment. I got to tell a little story to get this video started. Recently, over the weekend, we were having conversations over at Scum about video games, and of course, Minion would, of course, bring up World of Warcraft because, he's a dork. And one of the things that I kind of laughed about was, once again, a prediction that I had made, which was coming true. And it was a prediction that I had made in the WoW community on their forums. And, people were talking about when Classic came out, how it was going to show people what raiding was really like and blah, blah, blah. And of course, I had heard that song and dance before over the years. And of course, for those of you that don't know, the entire first tier of raiding content was destroyed in 6 days by a group of not even max level players and mostly quest greens. And it kind of revealed the fact that where a lot of players found difficulty years and years ago, the difficulty isn't there when you know what you're doing. And in the intervening years, players within that community had just simply gotten a lot smarter and a lot better at, figuring out how the game works and how to get ahead of it, how to solve those problems without, kind of going, okay, well, let's try this, let's try that. They already knew the answers to the questions. They knew how to build their characters. They knew where to put the talent points, and they had it all figured out. One of the problems that they had back then, though, was that they didn't have access to YouTube. They didn't have access to all the information that we have access to now. They didn't have access to the level of interaction that we have with other players. And that's kind of, one of the reasons why I made this channel is like a lot of it is the discourse. It's the comments. I know that a lot of people say I'm not supposed to read the comments on my YouTube videos because apparently they'll hurt my emotion things. I don't even know what those are. But the truth is I read them because I want to hear the counterpoints. I want to see when people say, well, Minion, I disagree because of this. And what about this? Or have you thought about that? I love those comments. I because I like to keep seeing what other people are saying and what other people are seeing from their perspective, because it gives you a much more informed opinion. And one of the things that I've noticed with the Star Citizen community, and maybe you've noticed this too, when you're talking to people about their ships, how long does it go before someone says, well, when they break down their ships like this is my money maker, and this is kind of like my fun ship. People are being really, really smart about the ships that they buy. They're going out there and they're looking to acquire something that is going to give them the financial freedom within the game to play the game the way they want to play it. And even like when people are working with a very modest budget, I constantly see people making these like super smart buys, and they're going like, no, like I want to get this, I want to get that, but I'm also aware of the fact that there's going to be a fuel concern here, so I kind of want to upgrade. I want to get this, and then this is kind of the way I see my hangar being given the state of the game and what we're seeing right now. Though of course I can change things around if there's major changes in the game. I think that not just not just for the WoW community or whatnot, but I think broadly, thanks to things like the internet and thanks to a lot of these kind of ways that we have to share information and between each other, that we've kind of gotten to a weird point where as players we're so much better than we were 10, 15, 20 years ago. The ease at which we can share information and show like live video examples of how we do things in a video game now. These facilities weren't available to us way back then, or very, very barely and in a very primitive state compared to now. But we've gotten so good at organizing and disseminating information amongst the community. I mean, you look at the trade app for Star Citizen. This is what's up for sale at every station. These are the price differentials you can expect. Go forth and make millions. right? Like it's all right there already, and the game isn't even finished or even remotely close to finished. I wonder if, in a way, we haven't maybe cursed ourselves or kind of gotten to a point in Star Citizen where we talk about the economy in Star Citizen, but realistically, do any of us think that the economy is really going to matter all that much a few months into the game being live? Like, do any of us really believe that we're going to be sitting there and kind of going like, oh man, where am I going to get the money to repair my ship? Or, oh, how am I going to afford another handgun, or blah, blah, blah? Does anybody really think that they're going to be in that position? Realistically, almost every single person that I talk to about their hangar and about the ships that they own, there's always like a very logical breakdown as to this ship is how I intend to make my money, and this is going to be like my fighting ship and whatnot, and this is how I have it all broken down, and this is what I plan to do. And people have very clear and concise plans. And not only that, we are constantly being exposed to the Star Citizen community economy, as often as we want. We're seeing it evolve, and we're making plans, and we're adapting as the economy evolves. It's a very unique situation. And added to that, generally in a game like this, the real kind of the gameplay, the goal, the end objective would be to get the ship, like, oh, this ship or that ship. And some of us, even though we own a fair amount of ships, there's a few ships out there that we say, oh, we'll buy that one, in game. But a lot of the big ones, a lot of the big needs, a lot of the big, ships that are going to be that kind of vehicle of progress for us, we already own. They're already in our hangars. And, I was watching a whole bunch of financial stuff on the news today. And and they're talking about the impact of all of these things and, all these shifts in the economy. And I was sitting there and I was thinking, is there really anybody in the Star Citizen universe, in the community, who isn't going to walk into the universe the first day when it all counts and it's all, technically like, from now on, this is the money that you have? Is there anybody that doesn't have like a completely solid financial plan and financial independence already sitting in a hangar waiting for the game to be, at that point where they can use it? We're in a weird point in kind of gaming history where, because of things like YouTube and Discords and all these different ways that we can interact with and share information with other players, that in a weird way, player communities almost become like a collective consciousness, like the Borg almost. You have all this awesome computing power and all these different brains all connected, all working together to grind out all the valuable tidbits of information out of this deluge that we get out of CIG and out of testing the game and whatnot. As game developers, I don't know, some of you may have seen this as well. There's almost certainly in the past there has been, and I'm not naming anyone in particular, but there have been individuals who have shown a certain smugness towards players. And yes, this is 100% not focusing this on anyone, but only to then turn around and be like, oh, we didn't think of that, and that's like one of the things I always kind of say is, you don't underestimate player communities, especially nowadays. They really are like the Borg. They assimilate everything and just extract all the little kernels of truth that they need, and then they go forward. And sometimes they find loopholes in things that you never even thought of, and then instead of sharing that with a lot of people, they might share that with a few friends, be like, hey, let's just pray that this goes live the way that it is. And oftentimes you see game developers ever increasingly having to play catch up with players and try to kind of beat that down to, you know, try to stop players from just kind of exploding financially. I mean, certainly you could see, like, remember the old days of Jumptown, right? Running drugs from Jumptown to Grim Hex, and how lucrative that was and how quickly players just jumped on it. And so, you know, we had that limitation that if you go to Jumptown, you can only sell a certain amount onto the market for, you know, a certain period of time. But, I mean, if that were unlimited, there would be so many players in the Star Citizen community currently who would be like billionaires by now. And I have to wonder that when these two forces collide eventually, when Star Citizen goes live, I mean, who's going to win? And I think it's going to be the players. I think that the Star Citizen economy is really going to spin out of control for a while, and CIG is going to be trying to play catch up with the players to try and limit them, because honestly, I see a lot of players out there making some really smart choices with the ships that they buy and their game plan, and getting organized and disseminating information to each other. I think that is going to be one of the biggest challenges that CIG has when the game goes live, is trying to figure out ways to kind of stamp out a lot of money making in the game, because it looks like there's a lot of people out there, you know, a lot more than you would normally see in an MMO, that are going to be getting pretty wealthy pretty quick. I don't know, that from my point of view, that's what I see. You may see something different, but this is going to be a very interesting game to see go live. One day.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in the Star Citizen Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.